Okay, I think we are live.
Live. Us?
Let's just give a minute for people to join.
Alrighty.
So I looked at the background noise reduction. It says not supported in this browser. I'm using Firefox. Perhaps it has to be Chrome.
Yes.
You must pick from the two available choices.
Safari.
Maybe three.
Safari has a huge amount just because of the iPhone.
Is Edge, is it called Edge still?
Yes.
Yes. Nobody uses Edge. Nobody
uses it. I bet you it's a lot. Hold on.
I seem to remember seeing, and I can't remember if it was on Edge or Bing, or probably both, but the most searched thing was how to install Chrome.
That's funny. Try though, they might. Wow, Chrome just continues to rise in market share. It's gone from 66% roughly about a year ago to 72% now worldwide. Safari is trending down. Yeah, Edge is pretty tiny. Wow, Opera is still around. That's amazing.
They all use Chromium though.
Okay, fair enough.
Oddly, my son uses Opera. Okay, we are live now on Twitter.
Live.
Okay, so should we wait another minute or should we just start?
That's a good question. We could ease into the substance of the content. Do we have any minute-long non sequiturs?
Cold opens.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should do our intros because we
could do the intros.
So, hi everyone, welcome to our week show. If you don't know, we are all part of the Strato Mercado project that is a layer 1 EVM compatible blockchain focused on bringing DeFi to the masses. Now, the three of us here are all longtime builders and all Ethereum OGs. I'm Victor Wong.
Vic, I don't know if you can describe yourself as an OG. I think someone else has to describe.
Someone has to bestow that.
Exactly.
Okay, now, you two are OGs.
Can we say it to each other?
Yeah, can we say it to each other?
You are an OG. But yeah,
I said that as a collective
in a circle,
right?
Yes.
Exactly.
So you can tell Bob's an OG. Bob can tell me. I can tell you.
Yes. So we've been building since the launch of Ethereum and continue to follow this journey. So you'll get hopefully no shilling and a lot of good historical context about what we're going to talk about today. And today we are going to talk about the highlights from Token2049. And was it more boring or more crazy in terms of the blockchain world? Joining me is Bob Summerwell. Bob, you want to do a quick intro?
Hi there, I'm Bob Summerwell. We're not old, we're all very experienced.
Yeah, thank you.
But yes, I'm head of ecosystem.
Yeah, and Kieran, of course.
Yeah. I am also experienced, not as long as you can be in the space, but it's starting to feel like it, right? Like we've really been around for some time. But yes,
I will bestow the OG title on you, Kieran. So we could go around. I mean, anyone that's been around since before the launch of Ethereum and was part of it, I think that would be we can claim that title.
How the time goes.
So I will say that I was not in Singapore. I kind of played hooky with Kieran's approval. International travel is brutal. But Bob and Kieran were there and wanted to get your kind of impressions. What do you think the big themes this year were at Token 2049?
Yeah, bunch of big topics. One thing that was notable is that it felt like meme coins had almost completely vanished. And there was a lot of that the previous year. And
can I pour one out for the meme coins, basically?
In meme coin's defense, I'm actually kind of pro meme coin. The problem is just the time horizon that people want to make money in like seconds. Like I think if a meme around a concept, if it can kind of grow organically for some period of time, is like great. But yeah, it's just the impatience and nihilism seems to increase with each cycle. But maybe not this one. So conference felt kind of less scammy in general. And a lot of digital asset treasury talk. I think we can go into that as we go. A lot of stablecoin talk. A lot of merger with TradFi sort of feel. I also think something has changed, and I can't tell like if it's just that we're all being bombarded with the same content, or something's qualitatively different about the world. Where like a year ago, it felt like the crypto was sort of peripheral to the problems with the world, and now it feels like it's like a big part of the solution. It's very strange, and everyone sort of acknowledges that. Like Donald Trump Jr. was there. Like that's a big changeover where you just feel. Like some weeks ago, like Putin made his comments about like how the United States was trying to use stable coins to export American inflation, which is probably true. But it's like that's a big turnaround. It's like a from the top policy as opposed to just, and you felt that at the conference as well.
Well, I mean that wasn't new on the Bitcoin conference side. So I was in Nashville 2014 and Vegas 2014, 2020, 2024, and then this July in Vegas. So in Nashville last year, you had Trump, RFK Jr. Then this year you had both Trump boys, Don Jr. and Eric were both there. Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting his name from the UK. It will come to me in a second. But yeah, and also, like tons of other Congress people and state level stuff. Like that's been a real theme well in advance on the Bitcoin side. I mean, I guess essentially because you've just really got that monetary store of value use case. It's like getting into these boring ETF, treasury company, government level adoption sort of stuff. That's happened earlier than on the Bitcoin side than more generally. But yeah, also, I mean, obviously, like the Trumps have got their world liberty nonsense going on and got to be pumping that one.
Well, actually, that's a good transition. So, we couldn't. Internally, we were kind of trying to decide whether the conference was more boring or more crazy than usual. You kind of have talked about the boring elements, I guess, more institutional. And I'm curious, like, since this is in Singapore, a very global conference, like what countries outside the US seem to be moving in this direction? Like obviously the US has been a holdout for a really long time, but how are things getting boring and how are things getting more global?
Bob, I want to remind you not to criticize our friends in Washington, at least in a public forum. Supporters of the power.
Otherwise, I'm not getting back in.
So it's an interesting feel, the conference. I would say it obviously represented people who are close by pretty well, but also some good number of people in from, let's say, UAE, some Europe, plenty of Americans who did the really long trip. Lots of Americans, I would say. And yeah, I think it's a strange. The institutional feeling was much stronger than the prior year. And it's not that much time to have passed. Like there were many, the stablecoin stablecoins have this institutional feel to them. Even at the beginning they didn't, and it is funny to watch. Like I see these announcements like Tether's coming to the U.S. and we've set up a nice regulatory framework that they can work with. And I went to a side event and met some of the Tether people. It's also just funny to see them in the media, like buying sports teams and all of that. Like at a certain point, you get big enough, you become institutional, right?
Right.
But yeah, I think it even last year it felt like blockchain technology at the lower levels of the stack disproportionately gets created in the broader West, right? And maybe that with the exception of some of the exchanges and such, and it gets used outside the West more. So you see stablecoin balances. Yes, they're big in the US, but it's kind of really a global story. Tether in particular being like much larger than Circle. Obviously, I think both of them, Tether purports not to serve the US. I'm sure there's plenty of US USDT holders. Circle maybe preferencing the US, but probably covers global as well. I think it's a funny feeling in which the people at the conference are a little more like users than builders. And there's also the feel Token is a little like, someone described it to me kind of like Comic-Con. And I thought that was actually very apt. Like there's people in funny, like, they're like astronauts. You could take yourself as an astronaut with Justin Sun pictures. I think Bob has one. And like lots of like shiny outfits, and I think the world's tallest man was there, and sadly in a wheelchair. I think he has a hard time standing.
Yes,
for at least for long periods of time. It was like you saw this like horse in a wheelchair. I was like, no, that's a human. Like like a really large, I don't know, 8'6" or 7'10" or something, like a really large human being.
Well, he probably has to be in a wheelchair just so he doesn't bump his head on every door frame that is out there. You know what I memean?
Yeah, exactly. And so, the mix is definitely a big global conference. I think they usually get, the number you hear is like 20-ish thousand people coming from hubs. Again, a lot of UAE, some of the European hubs, and big US contingents, very long flight for us. But yeah, it was great. Singapore also just a great place to hang out, and pretty good representation of the global scene, if you will. There's also I don't know if this perfectly ties into the global amount. There's the feeling that the same people are manning the booths last year to this year. I've also heard very expensive conference, but the companies have in many cases changed, except for like the very big ones, the headliners, people who get invited to the stage, et cetera. A lot of turnover and who was represented at the conference. So, in some ways, being a media company is one of the better ways to, survive cycles in crypto. Just someone will pay that big conference fee.
Yeah, and it seems those fees are getting bigger and bigger too, right? It's just very, very expensive.
Garbage?
I got it.
Garbage?
So yeah, and we don't want to keep you too long. Obviously, you got important things to do around the house. Bob, what do you think about the global and the boring part of it?
So yeah, I guess just something else to say there is I've been to a lot of conferences. I've never seen somewhere with so much floor space of expo halls, just on and on and on. Like honestly, like city blocks, many city blocks worth of stuff. And then you go, oh right, yeah, there's another whole floor of this. Yeah, it's twice as much as you thought.
Even bigger than DEF CON in Thailand last year, because I remember looking, getting my step tracker and like seeing like, oh man, I have like 15,000 steps in the conference center.
Bigger in terms of the expo area, certainly. Like DEF CON was a large, floor area, but it was lots and lots of different rooms of talks, right. And then little stalls. Whereas this is just, expo hall of selling, I don't know what most of them were, thousands and thousands of projects that you've never heard of, doing a thing that is pretty indistinguishable from everybody else. So yeah, talking about the turnover, Kieran, I mean, I'm sure that's the case, is the vast majority of them are going to be gone in a year's time, and never even know they happened. But
so do you guys think the boringness comes from institutions themselves or what they're doing? Because everyone seems to be doing like stablecoin or treasury company, like that. Those seem to be the two options.
Yeah, I think it's a strange thing in which like the meme coins ended to some degree with the U.S. elections, and like I feel like Libra was really the end, in which the a coin associated with a public official did pretty badly for the people involved. Excuse me. And
sorry, I thought you were talking about the Facebook Libra.
No. Yeah, the Millet associated meme.
The Millet associated. Gotcha.
There was a Hawk Tour coin as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think it was before though. I feel like that was not the end, but yes, it's sort of I think they've kind of peaked. Pump.fun still seems to be doing lots and lots of launches in revenue, but no one's really talking that much about it anymore. And we're getting back to something like you either have to have tech or now you have to have revenue. And it's gotten, almost like a mirror of the public equity markets in which people are, something I might want to talk at more length another time. I keep seeing criticism of, say, Uniswap because they generate a lot of fees, but a lot of those fees go directly to the lab company and they don't go to the protocol, and they have to turn the protocol fees on and would then start theoretically buying back the token. Whereas folks like Hyperliquid, there's no lab skim and there are pretty big buybacks going on and the token price has gone up, and people argue Uniswap has a kind of conflict of interest there. But anyway, just the point being, like, suddenly it all became about like revenue, US dollar denominated yields, like how to do not quite a SPAC. Like most of these treasury companies are an existing publicly traded company, and there's maybe not a formal takeover with a change of control, but usually like in an injection of capital that the company's doing something else right now, and then it starts digital asset treasury operations. There was a panel. Tom Lee gave a lot of numbers on how big his digital asset treasury company is, what chunk of ETH it holds, now what the trend is, all that sort of thing. And I guess Michael Saylor kind of pioneered, I don't know if he was there, I don't think he was, some of the financial engineering that kind of creatively let him acquire as much Bitcoin as possible. And all these folks are then kind of I would argue like a part of the TradFi mindset. People make complicated products that sort of favor the house in a sense.
Yeah.
So that, no matter what, like the client has an idea, but the institution does okay. Right. Yeah. And some analog of that is going on. People are purchasing, like a lot of the time you would just want to hold tokens directly as opposed to invest in a digital assets treasury. I guess I think the digital asset treasuries may be better than the ETFs. The ETFs promise to do nothing and charge a fee, where the digital asset treasuries don't really charge a fee and maybe do something creative. So, it's the entrance of a new venue of financial engineering, but I also think they're kind of brilliant in the following sense. It's a tremendous pain to be a public traded, say, US company. It's expensive. There's a lot of compliance burden and so on. Tokens are out there. They get liquidity in some ways. You might want liquidity from the US public equity markets for your token. You could do this by IPOing a company, like Coinbase is sort of a vehicle for that. But then you got to like report on the extremely complicated, no doubt, operations of Coinbase and its whatever 1,000 employees and all that. Or you could just have a thing buy the token, and then you like never have to IPO the labs company, and you can kind of just get all of the capital without the much heavier reporting burden of being a publicly traded actual company. And this is like kind of genius. Like it's a great way to bring in more kind of bigger, more boring, more conservative capital while not changing the premise that much. So yeah, it's gotten, the suits are good at that, and the digital asset treasuries provide a good wrapper for the thing that probably most of us would hold as spot.
By the way, we have a comment from Shiva who says he loves your take on meme ecosystems. Not surprisingly, someone who has their own meme ecosystem.
You got to hold all the memes. That's the key.
Shout out to you, Shiva. Bob, what do you think about treasuries and stablecoins?
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is all sort of maturity, and it's a strange kind of feeling, looking back on all of our joint experience, sort of on enterprise Ethereum efforts kicking off in 2016, 2017, and really the thought there that all of these public and private use cases could all be met by suitably modular code bases and thinking EVMs. And here we are, you've got, you've got Stripe announcing Tempo and having a consortium of companies doing that kind of payments, set up. And then you've got, NASDAQ announcing, equities on chain again with a Bazoo derivative. And then you've got Base and Coinbase, and all of these things are happening in a very similar kind of form to what we were shooting for all that time back. And that's while these things are kind of a bit boring, it is also quite amazing that we've got to that place that these very conservative incumbents have caught up with that thinking. It's pretty amazing.
Well, I think part of it, and maybe one of the reasons as builders we find it boring, is that effectively there are no tech innovations really that are driving this, right? It's really about people who already have a bunch of money pouring more money into it.
I felt
the seams of it
at a time. I think much of the space was extremely eager for institutional approval, even with some, nominal hostility to it. And I now feel the emotion that I almost don't want it. I'm like, get out of here. Like I want it to go back. I guess I'm happy maybe about the, asset values, although it's not my primary motivation at all. But I hope that they don't, because the thing you see with the Web 2 world, while the internet remains at least kind of open, the people use 6 apps, and so it's just pretty easy to affect the whole planet of users of the internet just through these 6 apps.
Yep.
And I kind of, it could easily happen that way in crypto, where crypto itself remains totally open. But as a for instance, so the company, we have a Coinbase account, which we use a little bit. And they are way more difficult and onerous and making information requests all the time than any bank I've dealt with. It's bizarre. They try to introduce a whitelist for the accounts you could send out to. This was a month ago, where apparently you could turn this feature off and it's for your protection, in case case someone's gotten in there. But it's like you're worse than the thing you said that you were like setting out to destroy from a is it our money perspective. And that feels, I'm happy that the Genius Act passed, I think, but it also has that feel too. Coinbase itself is now in like a fight with the banks. Like, wait, we didn't mean you could do this. That we wanted all yield banned. So it's giving me
yeah. Well, I mean, I guess they do get leaned on more than the banks, though, right? Because they're kind of in this new energy area. So all of this stuff is just very rigid and defined, and the borders never move on the bank side. But then, on a crypto exchange side, it's kind of a bit of both, and so they're always going to be moving around a bit, and they're always going to get whacked down.
I think fintechs in general, they're like maybe a little leaner, probably a little faster on things than the banks, and it almost feels like they're overzealous in terms of their compliance posture because they feel that they can get kicked around in a way like the banks are just a little less worried. The banks are, tons of them have been leaned on too, right? In very much the same way, but it seems like a slower and less aggressive process somehow.
Well, I mean,
sorry.
Because they're generally not trying to do new things, right? The fintechs are moving around, so it might be like we're all compliant and good today, but then we might be doing a new thing next week, and no, they don't like that, so we better be on good behavior, get the brownie points. Whereas the banks are very rarely doing anything new and different, so they don't really worry so much, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like what we've really seen is just like regulation was like the lid on a bucket. And the minute you move that lid, the demand, like the real level of demand that we're seeing now is what sort of always existed, but it's just been held back for a really long time.
Yeah. I don't know if you ever just, the Circle IPO was kind of crazy. It showed, just like how much it went up after listing, like how much pent up demand is out there if this is even like slightly allowed.
Yeah, and I feel like the treasury companies are a similar thing, right?
Definitely.
Like all of those things. So, well, while we're getting to that point, how do you think things are getting a little bit more crazier than last year?
Yeah, things are happening fast. The turnover is still huge in the space. I would say there are still lots of good new projects that feel like they come out of nowhere and are pretty successful. Like I'm friends socially with the CEO of Lighter, and like he told me about it like a year and a half ago or two. I read the paper. I was like, I kind of get it, like circuits for matching and so on. And it's like it's huge now. Like over, and then the DEX wars are just sort of heating up. The perp dexes, there's like a new perp dex I'm in it. I guess the pace at which things can happen seems to just be accelerating. And the cycles, so I was talking to a friend who's kind of investor, kind of runs an incubator sort of thing. And he said that he's done better not thinking about it as a 4-year cycle anymore. Because it feels like they're compressing and they're kind of mini cycles within the cycle. And yeah, I suppose just everything is heating up in that way. A friend of ours sort of made a joke. So in the US, probably in Canada, we do not have a booth babe culture. Maybe I'd heard that this existed.
That used to be.
Yes, we had one
common.
once. But
as someone who's gone to gaming
practically
conferences.
illegal.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, I think booth babes are gone. But Token was very much like a booth babe conference. And in fact, they were sort of like almost like seemingly more of them than last year. And then this led to like, does this mean we're near the top? Like, is the price speculation at a maximum at this moment? And I got, it wasn't euphoria, but people were feeling pretty good. And I like a conference when people are feeling a little shitty,
Right.
because then there's room for things to run. I think yeah, like for better for worse, interest in the industry as a whole just trends upwards with prices. So like it's good for us for prices to go up. Um, but yeah, I mean I could see. I think the digital asset treasuries too are also evidence that it's kind of late cycle. But even still, stuff is just happening really quickly. Like I think products kind of mostly work in crypto now. There's a strange moment where like DeFi just worked, and this is part of the reason where we really got into it. It definitely like only kind of worked through 2021, 2022, maybe even 2023, and then it just kind of functions and it's big. Like every week or so, I see like one of the Aave people tweet like how big it would be compared to the US banks. And it's like 47, 43, 36. It's running. And so there's a feeling of inevitability that kicked in for me like a couple months ago that, has I've never quite felt.
What about you, Bob? What did you find, on the craziness level? What do you think is...
I can't have been in the right bit of the building. I didn't see any booth babes. Where were they? I saw lots of people in like the costumes, like the mascots or what have you. But something else I was just thinking, which is good, talking about top signals, is there wasn't an excess of Ripple representation. So, because that's always a good
out of Ripple.
Because that's always a good top sign, right? Is if there's lots of interest in XRP, that signals new entries into the market.
I wonder if that's changed. It used to be like the joke that I've both experienced in my face-to-face life and like on crypto Twitter. It's like when your like dentist or realtor friend asks you about what you think about Cardano or Ripple, then it's time to sell. But there was
plenty of Charles.
There's plenty.
There was plenty of Charles, but no Ripplers.
No Ripple. Yeah, I wonder what was it. I think BNB flipped XRP recently.
They did. I just saw that. Yeah, up to number 3. Amazing.
How are you guys feeling about like having been in the space for so long that long-term projects like MetaMask are now launching a token?
Oh yeah. This is another part of the crazy. This is a good reminder. I think it basically just a lot was held back by uncertainty, and so like the high quality stuff. A strange thing about the Gensler era was that it felt like at least the eye of Sauron was on the good projects, and the bad projects, in a sense, were sort of left to run, and the good ones. So like any industry, like if you looked at all of the businesses, most of them are bad. Most of them go out of business. And if you imagine if you like made all the businesses publicly traded, most of the stocks would go to zero. So you would kind of expect in crypto that like most tokens are bad. It's sort of like what you would see if you just made essentially no barriers to entry to like publicly listing stock. Not the tokens are stock, but anyway. So, however, if you kind of market cap weighted, you would probably find that the things near the top are pretty high quality. And then sometimes things will come out of the bottom and go into the top, but like by and large, you should sort of forget about that long tail of things. And it did feel like to a significant degree, the eye was on the big things, and it tried to destroy them before there was a token or freeze them or what have you. And it left the bad stuff to run amok, contributing to the impression that the space was just like all scams. And like it might be all scams by number of projects. Like the average project might be a scam or just not worth any value. But like the average business is like not a good business. But the big ones are good most of the time, not all of them. And they're kind of just being allowed out, again, Circle IPO, good example. MetaMask token, it's like probably they should have had one a long time ago. Like people have been using it for a long time. They probably wanted a token.
Well, I remember the height of this for me was when the SEC filed charges against Binance and Coinbase in the same week. It's like we're just going to look at something with the word exchange in it and then go after that, right? Like it's like the most compliant exchange and the least compliant exchange. It's crazy.
No, it's. I mean, the other thing that you had there was. Yeah, it was like the good actors that were getting the legal action.
Yes, exactly.
Basically, because the good actors were, staying on shore and trying to work through the thing and get to a resolution. Whereas all the baddies are just like, yeah, we're out of here. We're not serving US people. Right, we're scam away. We're not even going to make any effort to be compliant of anything, and you can't get us, So it was almost by definition that the good actors were the ones that got whacked because they stayed around to get whacked and kept coming back for more and more whacking until, the whacking ceased eventually.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think another crazy thing is I think we're going to have masses of ICOs, like tons and tons of them coming up.
Well, on that, I think we've crossed the 30-minute mark. I want to ask you guys, do you have any closing thoughts about Token 2049 or where we're at in the overall state of blockchain?
One thing I would say, I was reminded, food is excellent in Singapore.
Hawker market.
Those who haven't, there was a hawker market in the conference. It was kind of crazy. They made one. It was very cool.
That's awesome.
I'm pretty optimistic. These are good times. A lot of work ahead, obviously. I think, but yeah, it feels like it was a good marker of some sort of tipping point. Again, for a couple months, I've been feeling the inevitability kind of based, even though parts of me doesn't like it, on the institutional buy-in. It's gotten to the point where I think they don't just roll it back like they did last time. Like, customers are demanding it. And, I think people who said they'd never custody crypto just stood it up quickly. And, it's probably too intermingled now to really remove the next, if sentiment changes towards crypto in the US and elsewhere. And then there's a lot of thinking to do about what, completing the product, so to speak. Yeah. It's a strange thing in which retail was in for a while, and maybe got burned, kind of culminating with FTX. It probably hasn't come back all that much, and the institutions are in now, which means that retail will eventually come back. And we cannot burn retail again. It just has to be better than, I think one of the things we think about is just the absolute experience as a totality has to be better than whatever service it's displacing, banking, FX exchanges, whatever. It's not all financial services, obviously, but a lot of them are. And this includes things like making sure people don't lose the keys somehow or what have you. So there's a needle to thread there, but I think that's going to be a lot of what the next phase is about.
Bob, what do you think?
Well, and I mean, I think the way that will happen for a lot of retail is that they're not going to have their hands on directly. It'll all be through these instruments. So their experience is just, oh yeah, I've got a brokerage account and there's those in it as well, but they look indistinguishable to, to commodities or equities or bonds or anything else. It's just, there's some more financial instruments and in you go. So I think that's your sort of speculative retail, crypto as an investment people What I think is going to be more interesting to watch is sort of the payments side. Especially with the Stripe project there, if you get to a place where lots of just regular payment flows can be using crypto rather than fiat, that's really interesting. That you can start getting real velocity of non-speculative use, because everything really at this point has pretty much been speculation or a little bit of payments, but not really any large volume of payments. Early on, it's like buy your coffee with Bitcoin, and that didn't last very long, and that kind of hasn't really come back. But really, with the stable coins and these large integrations, like PayPal as well. PayPal are doing things. MasterCard have announced stuff. I'm sure all of these payment rails are going to be joining in on the game, and that really changes things.
Yeah, and one question, are we going to Dev Connect? I know me and Bob have already bought our tickets. Kieran, you're the holdout. Can I get a commitment?
I'm still a probably. Let me. I've never been to Argentina. I really do want to go, but
I really want to see what's going on. Yeah, I haven't been to South America, and I really want to see what's happening in the crypto world over there, because you hear a lot about it. Obviously, there are big exchanges and big projects there, so I'm just really kind of curious to find out.
Vitalik said he's more likely to get recognized in Buenos Aires than in the US, say.
Yeah. Well, and so if you like this content, please join us every week. We have this at the same time. Follow us on Twitter at Strato Mercata with an A, and join our Telegram community. Bob, if they want to hear more from you, where can they find you?
Yep. So I'm just Bob Samuel, same as my name, on Twitter.
And Kieran, where can people find you?
K James Lubin. So shortened, but my name also on Twitter/X.
And you can find me at Vic4Wong on Twitter. Bob and Kieran have both shamed me publicly because I have so few followers, even though I was an early adopter. So please connect to me. Love to hear from you.
What's the 4 about? What's the Vic 4? What's that?
So 4 is a 4 is a number that no Chinese person likes because it sounds suspiciously like death. So it's back in the world of 8-character usernames, I could always get Vic4Wong, because having an Asian name with the number 4 in it, pretty much guaranteed that I could get it.
Always doing things the Wong way.
Exactly. I've never heard that joke before. Okay, thank you, everyone. See you again next week. Take care.
Cheers, guys.